Okay, this game is Nepomniachtchi versus Bosboom 2007. Nepomniachtchi's 17th birthday today. He's an up-and-coming Russian player who's now over 2,600, believe it or not. So one of the strongest juniors in the world. So let's see how this game goes and it shows how strong junior chess is today. E4, C5. Now knight C3 is played, which is not the mainline Sicilian, it's a closed Sicilian. White normally follows with G3 here, but he plays F4, which is also equally as good and probably as played. E6, knight F3, A6. So black plans a queenside expansion with B5, and Nepomniachtchi he now clamps this down by playing A4, stopping B5. Black plays knight F6. Now G3 is played, pinch-hitting the bishop. Knight C6, bishop G2, rook B8. Again, pursuing this B5 plan, but at least white will have some pressure on the A file after B5 and A takes B5. White does castles, bishop E7, now H3, with the idea of expanding himself with G4 now. Black plays the B5, and after takes, white plays D3. Now black continues, gaining some space, and now black stops white's expansion with G4. So this is quite an annoying play, instead of black routinely castling, allowing, for example, G4, knight G3. So white has to think of a different approach to the position. And first he plays B3, which is interesting, putting this bishop on this interesting diagonal. After bishop B7, bishop B2, queen B6. Now black might be threatening some variations, check, and if king H2 might be threatening knight G4, because if it takes HG, this rook's going to be quite useful where it is. So white has to be sort of tactically careful here, and he plays rook F2, sort of prophylactic defensive move against this potential of the check. Black plays D5, now white plays E5, knight D7, and now an interesting pawn sacrifice, F5. So it's after takes, he's liberated this E pawn now, but he doesn't want to play this immediately. Instead he uses the square vacation with knight F4 to put pressure on D5. Black now plays kind of passive move, knight D8 to protect D5, and white further exerts pressure on D5 by playing knight D2. So how does black defend against D5? It's pretty tricky actually here. What he does do is continue this kind of kingside attack with H4, and white plays now G4. White's slightly better here because he's got the pressure really, even though he's a pawn down. Black played down C4, threatening actually to play C3, forking these two pieces. So white has to do something about this. He takes with the pawn on the B pawn, and after bishop C5, doesn't really want to lose the exchange, so he plays a pawn sack with D4 to exchange off these bishops, and now plays C takes D5, so he's got his pawn back. This pawn would be exposing the black king if taken, so black here plays Fg4, and white plays now knight E2. After queen takes E5, this is more justified because it's there's now more time needed to exploit this E file. It's not going to happen anytime soon. But white does play knight C4 here. Queen E7, knight D4. So white's not too worried about this pawn capture with Gh3. There's knight F5s in the air, and this D6 pawn, D6 move is also quite worrying. Black plays king F8. After queen takes G4, plays knight F6. Now queen F4 was played, hitting this rook on B8. Black plays rook A8, captures occur, and now queen B8. Nasty kind of infiltration, leaving this pawn as a pawn sack, but getting even more pressure now onto the black position. After knight F5, queen E1, rook F1, queen E8. White now picks off this B pawn, and now knight E7 check, and this is devastating for black. forking king and bishop here. But even stronger, perhaps, than the immediate knight takes d5. Let's have a quick look at knight takes d5. Knight takes d5. Bishop takes d5. This would be winning as well. It's basically won here, but White plays knight e3 here because there's the h pawn is also threatened now with the queen, so putting even more pressure on that, but also threatening a mate because this knight stopping the king's escape square. Bishop basically black is defenseless now and resigns. So it was a very interesting attacking game played by the Russian 17-year-old who's over 2600 now. So I'm sure we'll see more from this guy in the future.